I want to talk to you today about the $100 trillion wealth transfer. And I will give you just some observations and some projections, what I've found and observed through many discussions. And maybe it's helpful and maybe it's some inspirational thoughts within for you. So first of all, what I want to recommend is this book. I don't know whether do you know this. That's the $100 trillion wealth transfer book from Ken Costa. It's highly recommended. That was my first touch point into the opposite of what many people discuss and talk about in regards of these largest wealth transfer in history, what we have seen. This book is not describing the money, what is flowing from one generation to the next. This book, and it's fascinating, Ken was observing what are the real implications of this largest wealth transfer in history, what we will face over the next decade. And here are two interesting observations, what I found from the book and also from the discussion with Ken directly. Number one, the family itself, it is just a changing ecosystem. And what I mean by this is just that we should redefine the term, what is actually a family? Maybe you will respond, yeah, you know exactly what a family is. Maybe. But gender-wise, structure-wise, the family of today and also the family from the past will have little in common or nothing in common with the family of the future. Let me explain why I said this. On the one hand, we will see on the enterprise family side, we will see global families more and more. That means that these kind of families will have multiple jurisdictions and homes across the globe, and they will act across the globe. And the structure of the family itself is just more with an entrepreneurial DNA. That is just my observation, because these newer generation, what come into the position to take over the leadership of the family, they have a greater entrepreneurial DNA, maybe as the parent generation. Maybe that's the opposite what you recognize, because in many discussions is if the newer generation is come in the transition, I don't use the term succession, in the transition, that often there's a complaint that this kind of generation don't proper fit these entrepreneurial DNA. My definition of these newer generation and these entrepreneurial DNA is more focused on what they can change over generations. And also structure-wise from the family itself, I mean, it is more and more common that these traditional family model, that everything is focused on the wealth creator, that is just failed. I mean, the females are also successful and also wealth creator. And structure-wise also, I mean, it is also more and more common that man and man, woman and woman, and in different combinations, they will build up their own family. Yes, that brings just more complexities and more room for discussions and maybe also conflicts. The second point is that is my own projection. And please prove me if I'm wrong. We will see a shrinking time frame. And what I mean by a shrinking time frame is that we are taught that one generation, it takes time or is scheduled for 25 or 30 years. My projection is that will be changed. And the time frame is shrinking, that one generation very fast is just 15 until 20 years. And what I mean by this is just you confront that there are many, or just 4 or 5 generations sitting on the table. That is just very different to the generations from the past. And what I mean, if 4 and 5 generations sitting on the table, they are active. They are not inactive. That's one main observation. Second main observation is, I came across the question whether we will see in this kind of wealth transfer a new generation of elite families. I found this fascinating, these kind of questions. I had a discussion with a family member about this kind of topic. He mentioned to me, or raised the question, is there a greater opportunity that we will see through this wealth transfer that a new generation of elite families will grow up? Because on 2 main drivers. One, these traditional old families, by and large, are very disconnected from many societies around the globe. And number 2, the main reason is also that these kind of families will disappear maybe over the next decade on the matter of a failed succession or transition. But also these newer generation, these Gen Zs, millennials, Ken Costa described as a zillennials, they have a completely different mindset and they approach things in a different way. And we should prepare on this, or for this wave. And what I can tell you is that was just my thinking, that these replacement of the elite families will take place over the next 5 or 10 years. That is just underway. It is silent, but it is underway. And this newer generation of families asking through this wealth transfer also for what is the family actually standing for? What is the multi-generational impact, what they want to achieve? What is the goal? Is it just to change something in the educational world, something to change in healthcare system, educational system, you name it? The point is, what I want to describing a little bit clearer is, for me personally, we are wrong if we are talking only and only about these large amount of money, what will be transferred from one generation to the next. We should look over the border, over the horizon, and asking ourselves, what is actually really waiting for us? We will see a lot of individuals, they become a lot of power in their hands. We will see in generation, they are capable to influence through their social media activities, boardroom meetings very easily. And most importantly, this generation know exactly what they want with this kind of money, what they get in their own hands. That is also a main difference to these creator generation, boomers and the silent generation, that this generation was more focused on creating and growing the money. This new generation, yes, have also an interest to growing the money, but with a greater purpose, with a greater sense for doing or to invest the money with a greater control, and think that they can actively change over generations. And also through this wealth transfer, we see, and that is also what I've observed, is there is a shift ongoing in this kind of generation. They're shifting from the quantitative capital assets, from the capital, through the qualitative capital assets, through the family. They ask themselves, okay, how we can structure our family just more professionalized, more properly, just like as an enterprise. we should prepare for these kind of questions, what are waiting for us as advisors or anybody who wants to serve these families. And once again, what I want to recommend once again is to read this book. It is very great. It is a lot of insights, and it is just put the money beside and take a look over the horizon. One point, it is also quite important, and I've addressed this also in one of my videos, is just the feminization of wealth. What I mean by feminization of wealth, we will see, and it is also on the way, an increasing count of women. They got a lot of money in their hands. Yes, on the one hand, also to the wealth transfer, but also they create their own fortune as an entrepreneur, also maybe just as a chief executive officer in corporate positions. Women have the capability in their hands to change more aggressively with another mindset as we as men is doing this. And they give money also in other sense and other purpose. We should also prepare for this. Let's take a look over the next decade. What about in a family? There's a shift in the role that the woman will be the main wealth creator, not the man. Can you imagine what this kind of tension will take place in the family? Maybe. And here's my last point, and I've addressed this also in one of my previous videos. Nobody talks about the implementation. Nobody talks about the real situation if you are coming in a family just from a position that you are a consumer of this kind of wealth, what was created an imperial generation, and you are now on a transition to take over the responsibility for the family's fortune. Nobody talks about this kind of meteor, what is coming to many families and individuals. What I mean by meteor, you can see it, you can see them, but in the end of the day, you don't know when will this kind of meteor hit in your life. And you must implement something in your life what you don't have created. You must implement something what is maybe full of expectations, full of energy, full of relationships. Relationships, they are not yours. On the flip side of this, nobody is talking about if you are coming in a position that you are transfer your created fortune to your daughter, to your son, what is the best way? Is it just a gift? Or is it in a transition that you transfer your expectation and all this stuff to the next generation? Or is it a gift that you say, that is a gift, you can do whatever you want with this? It is not so easy because in many cases, if you are in a first generation wealth creator, you don't have never experienced this kind of exercise. So consider. My point for today is we should raise other questions in regards of these wealth transfer. Yes, a lot of people talk about only and only about the money, but the real issues, the real challenges are on the individuals, but also on the families. And maybe these points, what I have put in the video today, are helpful for you. And if you want to discuss this further, I'm more than happy to have a discussion and share of my experience with this. Please put a comment below and let's stay in touch and have a discussion about it. I'm more than happy. For now, until next, be great.